Hello, lovely humans, and welcome back to my channel if you're new here. Hi, my name is Jamie. I'm a wedding planner, and in today's video, we are answering some of your burning questions. You see, last week we did a quiz alongside the video. It's awesome. It's how to prioritize your budget in less than 2 minutes. If you haven't checked it out yet, I'm going to link it right here. Seriously, 120 seconds, and you can figure out how to prioritize your budget. You're welcome in advance. But what I didn't know is that my team snuck on in there a little question box, and I decided to surprise everyone who actually took the quiz and answer a few of those questions for you today. You see, you never sleep on these opportunities, guys. You never sleep on any of those quizzes or digital downloads that we have, because you never know if I'm going to go ahead and answer your question on one of these videos. So without further ado, let's just jump right on into it. First question, what is an actual priority versus what I can do / what is a scam? First of all, if you're going into this with a mentality that some or a lot of this is going to be a scam, I'm so sorry. And I'm here to tell you that the wedding industry is not designed that way. If you hang out here long enough, you'll know that I'm pretty passionate about what we do. But I do think it's important to recognize what you want and what you don't want. And this is why I think things like that quiz that I linked, I'll also have it down below in case you missed it when it was up there, is so important, because your priorities are going to be completely different. I can't tell you what to prioritize because I don't know if photography is the most important. I don't know if you want it to be an easy wedding to plan. I don't know if you want to have an amazing experience, or if you want your guests to have an amazing experience, or I don't know if the look is the most important to you. So that's something that you have to prioritize. And if at any point in time you feel like something is a scam or seems a little fishy, you're talking to the wrong vendor, or it's not a priority for you. Question number 2, how do you make the wedding feel expensive while on a budget? Do not underestimate the power of simple elegance. Do not underestimate the power of just letting natural beauty speak for itself. So if that means that you have an outdoor location or an outdoor venue, you don't need to dress it up a lot, because the Lord has done that for you already. You can keep your centerpieces minimal, you can keep your invitations very minimal, and honestly, doing that in a tasteful way comes across a lot more like an elegant experience than it does a cheap experience. So usually where we see this played out is in attire and in florals and decor. So as far as attire is concerned, the simpler the outfit is, the simpler the suit or the dress happens to be. Typically speaking, the less appliques, the less embroidery, the less beadwork, the less lace, it's going to be less expensive. I would also recommend looking into different avenues for getting a wedding dress, such as going with a used dress or even renting one instead. That's not everybody's jam. I know, I'm aware of that, but you know, if you're open to it, that's a great way to find an expensive dress for a smaller price. Same goes for suits. You're going to want to find a modern fit, something that's really clean. You don't need too much design to it or too much to make it crazy. You just want something simple and timeless, but still relevant. Our favorite, obviously, always is Generation Tux. I do have a code for them. Just check out up there, because I can't share it here with you public, so you're going to have to get it. You're going to have to get it there, okay? And then centerpieces. Go for something like bud vases or those big old hurricane glasses from Dollar Tree. Those are really inexpensive. I think we have a whole Pinterest board on like minimal centerpieces. That would be a great thing to go look at, because you'll see, even though it's super simple, it actually looks really bomb. Question number 3, how do you negotiate pricing, and is it appropriate? I have already done 2 videos on negotiating pricing with a vendor. I recommend going to check those out, because I do think that there's a time and a place for it. But I'll give you the Reader's Digest version right now. Yes, you can negotiate. No, you cannot belittle their services. Let me explain what that is. You can say, hey, I see that you have all these items in your package. We are hoping to spend a little bit less than what you're offering. Is there anything that we can remove from this package to make it a little bit more affordable for us? Instead of, well, what if I paid you $500 less? How do you feel about that? Is that okay? No, it's not quite the right way to do that. Instead, we want to make sure that we are removing things like maybe an hour from your photographer's package to make it more affordable, or removing the wedding album if that's not what you want to do. I don't mean to single out photographers, but those are 2 specific examples. If it's a catering company, maybe cutting down from 4 appetizers down to 3 different kinds of appetizers. If it's a wedding planner, can we have 1 less meeting to make it more affordable? And open the conversation up so the vendor can reply in kind, basically like, hey, I totally hear and appreciate what you're saying. Here's what we can cut, and here's what we feel like we need to keep in order to provide the best service possible that you hired us to do. What to do at a reception that isn't dancing? I get this question all the time, and I mean all the time. Honestly, nothing. We have had several events with no dancing whatsoever, and they have been perfectly fine. It just feels like a cocktail hour style reception where everyone's wandering around and talking with one another. It was honestly one of the most memorable events that I can think of in my mind stands out that they had no dancing. Instead, they had a couple of friends, one with a stand-up bass, one with guitar, and another one singing just kind of quietly in a corner. And it was so cool because it set the right vibe for the experience, and it was upbeat and it was live and it was groovy, but at the same time it wasn't loud and overpowering, and people spent hours just hanging out talking with one another. If you do feel like you want to add a little bit more to that, obviously lawn games are always a great idea, photo booth, a board game table. Highly recommend a board game table. Those things are absolutely epic and so fun to watch grown adults be like, look, it's Connect 4. Those all work as well, but don't feel like you have to add on too many things because most people will probably just enjoy hanging out, drinking some drinks, and chatting with you. Is the master plan and a day of coordinator enough? In my opinion, yes. That's literally how I designed the master plan. For those of you who don't know, master plan, it's like an online membership thing where you can come in and learn how to plan a wedding like a professional, okay? I walk you through everything I take my clients through from the very beginning to their wedding day and walk them through all of the choices leading up to it to make sure that they are staying on budget, staying on task, and not getting too stressed or too overwhelmed. So I literally designed it as if you were hiring me as your wedding planner. And it's just a subscription, so $29 a month, and you can be there for as little or as long as you need to be to make sure that you're planning your wedding masterfully. So yes, it's intended to replace a long-term planner. That is the whole point of it. So it's beautifully built out to help you plan your wedding with me as your planner, and then you pass off all of your stuff at the end to your coordinator, who is going to kiss you because you have all of the documentation that they have been waiting for. I built it so someone like me would receive that information and be like, oh my gosh, I love you so much. So yes, I do think that 2 of those will be more than sufficient. How do I plan my rehearsal if my day of coordinator is only available for day of? You should probably join the master plan. I literally teach you how to run a rehearsal as a just in case if you don't have a coordinator, or for situations like this. Again, it's $29 a month. You can just jump in, learn how to do that, and jump right back out, okay? Or you could be there for like 2-3 years. I don't care. It's up to you. Next, I got a lot of this same question. What should I spend the most money on? What's worth spending money on? What should you spend the most on? And so on and so forth. So this is Paula, Riley, and Sydney. Paula's top preference was the experience, the food, the guests, just like the overall vibe. So for that, specifically, if that speaks to you and you're like, yeah, I want to have a great experience, I think some of the top priorities are 1, let's have a smooth timeline. Let's make sure everything is running smoothly. So you have someone in charge of that, whether it's a coordinator, your photographer and DJ, or someone who just happens to run it for you, whether it's a family member or friend. You want a clean timeline because then no one's ever hungry or bored or left wanting. It means everything is moving at a smooth enough pace that your guests don't notice anything. You're also probably going to want to enjoy as much of the experience with your guests as possible, right? So it'd probably be pretty fun if you could join cocktail hour. If that's something you want to do, I highly recommend doing a first look, getting some of those photos done ahead of time so then you can join cocktail hour and spend more time with your guests. And the vendors that I would prioritize in this situation would be a coordinator, if possible, catering and bartending, sometimes go hand in hand, and a really good DJ. You want to have a good experience with a good dance floor? Your DJ will make or break that situation. Riley said ease is the most important for her. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but you need a good timeline and you need someone running it for you. Ideally a coordinator, but if not, it could be a family member or friend, photographer, DJ. Just make sure you discuss this with them beforehand so they know their roles and duties for your day. In addition to that, I would recommend not DIYing too much because that's going to be a lot of setup and a lot of tear down. So as much as you can, pawn off responsibilities onto other persons and or vendors to make your life easier. 10 out of 10 recommend. And Sydney said that her biggest priority would be the overall look of the event. So where would I invest? I would invest in florals and I would invest in your personal attire. So florals, it doesn't have to be big, lavish everywhere. We want key highlighted moments such as your bouquet, if you're choosing to have one, and the centerpieces. I would also invest in a cool photo moment, like a cool Instagrammable moment. It doesn't have to be an actual photo booth. It could just be a backdrop area that you've kind of pre-designed or is already there in your venue space, but you just want to highlight it a little bit. Add some lights, maybe a couple of props, something along those lines. And then lastly, I would make sure to bring your invitation suite on your wedding day for your photographer to photograph, because my guess is if the look's been important, then you probably have a killer invitation too, right? So you want that whole like flat lay vibe? Don't forget that. When should I do what? You should download my timeline right now that tells you when you should do what, because that tells you when you need to be booking vendors, when you need to be doing your tastings, when you need to be booking transportation, when you need to be sending out your invitations. If you're unsure of where you're supposed to be doing that in the general scheme of things, check out that timeline that I have linked up there. Completely free and an absolute game changer. This one is set up for 12 months though, so if you have more or less time, you might need to move things around for that. That is something that you can do directly in the master plan. This timeline is pulled directly from the master plan. So if you have a shorter time frame, all you have to do is type it in there and it changes everything for you, which is awesome. Obviously, I'm going to be a huge fan of this program because I invented it and thousands of people have gone through it and absolutely love it as well. So that's when you should do things. Download the timeline and go from there. What is an appropriate amount to spend on a venue? Now, initially I was like, there's no way I can answer this question, right? There's no appropriate amount. And then I realized that one of the questions that we asked was like, what's your budget range? So for this particular person, it's $15,000 to $20,000. There is still no appropriate number here. But what I would like to see is something $5,000 or less. So if you're on the $20,000 end, you could probably go up to $6,000, maybe $7,000, but then you're definitely gonna have to DIY in some other areas. If you're at $15,000, I would really like it if you landed at like $3,000, $3,500, maybe $4,000. And another question coming up is, the next question is, what are some inexpensive places or venues to have a wedding? I have an entire video on cheap or inexpensive wedding venues. Check that out. We're talking like county or city-owned places. Peer Space is a great place to check, but that video has all the stuff that you'll need. Spend some time going over that one, and that will help tremendously. Best place to find vendors, Facebook groups. Okay, I don't Google stuff when it comes to weddings. I just don't, because then what I'm going to see is the people who've paid to be up there highest or who just have wicked good SEO. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be the best vendor for the job. When I'm looking for vendors for my clients, or when I'm trying to build a styled shoot, or just general wedding planning searching, I always do it in Facebook groups. I have one that you can join. It's incredible. It's over 20,000 people, but you also may want to find one that's specific to your local area. Because that way you're getting word of mouth, someone's had an experience with them, and it's a lot easier to jump in a group and be like, hi, I'm looking for a photographer. My budget is $2,000. I want them for 6 hours. Here's my location. Here's my date. Is there anyone that's available? And then boom, like you just get a list of photographers who are like, me, pick me. And you will feel pursued in the most beautiful way, and it will cut down on your search like crazy. If you go through a different avenue, such as Google, or even Instagram can be a great place to look, but you don't have that assuredness of like, here are all the details I'm looking for. People come at me if this is something that you can do, okay? So a combination of those, I think. Mostly Facebook group, but of course, hunting around on Instagram would be a great thing to do as well, especially if you go to your venues page and you can see what vendors they have tagged in some of their photos and go down the rabbit trail from there, because then you know that they're at least local enough to be working there, and you can decide if you like their work or not and continue the conversation with them. Do I need a planner? Great question, Jocelyn. I noticed that your budget is less than $10,000. Do not hire a wedding planner. Nope, absolutely not. It is not worth your money to spend any penny on a planner. Now, if you want to have a coordinator, that could be very well a great idea for you, but you're still probably looking at a minimum of $800 for a coordinator. So you really need to decide if that's something that you want to be doing with your finances. But you should absolutely not hire a planner. I know, here I am, a planner that probably shouldn't be telling you that, but I am anyways, because $10,000 is not enough to hire someone in that capacity, which is why the master plan exists. And lastly, what should I do if I need a break from wedding planning? I'm so glad you asked. Pretend you're not planning a wedding. Go on a date. Go get your nails done. Go buy some houseplants. Go to Target. Yeah. So when your fiance is all ticked off because you're out there roaming the circle store, as my kids like to call it, you can tell them that your wedding planner said, hey, you deserve a break. You can go buy some new throw pillows. Do whatever brings you joy. If that's reading a book, if that's going out with friends, you just turn it off for a while. You just pretend as though I am not currently planning a wedding. And that's fine and easy for some people. And it's really hard for others. And that's why practice makes perfect. In fact, something that I talk about in the course and with my real life clients is like, take breaks. Take them frequently, plan in spurts, plan really, really hard for 2-3 weeks and then take a week off and be like, I'm not replying to any wedding emails. I'm not even looking. I'm not even going on Instagram to see if I can find a photographer. No, that's not happening. I'm just zoning out and gonna focus on other things. Because planning a wedding is taxing. It takes so much from your social life, from your work life. All of a sudden it feels like you have another full-time job that you didn't know you were signing up for. So every once in a while, and by every once in a while, I mean at least once a month, give yourself some time off. So that's all we have for this week's video, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you liked the video, be sure to like the video and subscribe to this channel for more tips and tricks for the modern day bride. And until next week, bye guys.